Every nation has this architecture of power. And in India, right at the very heart of its democracy, you'll find the judicial system. So today, think of this as a guided tour. We're going to walk through this incredible structure to understand how it's designed to deliver justice, from the smallest village all the way up to the highest court in the land.
So this right here, this is the Supreme Court of India. It's the absolute peak of the judicial pyramid, the ultimate watchdog, you could say. But have you ever stopped to wonder, how does a case even make it here? What are the core principles holding this entire system together? Well, to really understand its power, we have to start with the original blueprint.
Okay, Section 1, the blueprint for justice. Before we really get into the tour of the courts themselves, we first got to understand the three core principles this whole system is built on.
All right, the first principle is kind of surprising. It's what's called a single integrated system. Now think about that for a second. India is a federal country, right? You've got central laws and you've got state laws. But there aren't separate court systems for each. It's all one big, unified pyramid that handles both. Pretty unique, huh?
Okay, principle number 2 is all about its legal tradition. India follows the common law system, which it inherited from the British. So what does that really mean? Well, it means judges are more than just referees. Their decisions create what are called binding precedents. Basically, their rulings become part of the law itself, shaping it over time. That's a huge difference from civil law countries where judges pretty much just apply the law as it's already written down.
And the third and final principle? It's how disputes get resolved. India uses the adversarial model. The best way to picture it is like a legal boxing match. You've got two lawyers in opposite corners making their case, and a neutral judge in the middle who decides the winner. The alternative is the inquisitorial model, where the judge is way more hands-on, almost like a detective, actively investigating the facts of the case themselves.
All right, so now that we've got the blueprint down, let's actually begin our tour of the building itself. We're going to start right at the ground floor and work our way up to the very top.
Okay, take a look at this. This flowchart basically gives you the whole map. I know it might look a little complicated at first, but it's really a pretty clear hierarchy. You see that wide base at the bottom? Those are the subordinate courts. Then in the middle, you have the high courts. And right at the very tip top, that single point, is the Supreme Court. So let's start where the vast majority of cases begin.
This foundation, this base of the pyramid, is made up of thousands of these subordinate courts. I mean, these are the real workhorses of the entire judicial system. They're spread across every single district in the country. They're usually split into two types: civil courts, which handle disputes over things like property or contracts, and criminal courts, which deal with, well, actual crimes.
Okay, let's move up a level. Here, we find the 25 high courts. You can think of these as the highest court in each state and union territory, and they supervise all those thousands of courts below them. This is also where the first round of appeals usually happens.
And here we are. We've made it to the top, the apex, the Supreme Court of India. It was established right after India became a republic, and it is the final court of appeal. When this court makes a decision, it's binding on every other court in the country. It is the ultimate interpreter of the Constitution.
The growth of the court alone tells a story. Think about it. It started with just 8 judges back in 1950. Today, there are 34. This isn't just about numbers. It's a direct reflection of the growing complexity and the sheer volume of legal challenges in a nation of over 1 billion people.
Now, who represents the government in all these courts? I mean, the government, both at the central and state level, needs its own legal experts, right? So let's meet its top lawyers.
At the national level, you have the Attorney General. This person is the chief legal advisor to the government of India. And here's the crucial part. To even get the job, you have to be qualified enough to be a Supreme Court judge. That just shows you how significant the role is. They are, quite literally, the government's voice in the courtroom. And just like the central government has its top lawyer, each state has its own counterpart, the Advocate General. They're appointed by the state's governor, and they provide legal advice to the state government, doing pretty much the same job as the Attorney General, but, at the state level. So we have the courts and we have the lawyers. But what truly gives this entire structure its strength? It really comes down to one single word: independence. This is the absolute cornerstone that allows the entire building of justice to stand tall and function without fear or favor. So why is this independence so critical?
Well, because the judiciary is meant to be the ultimate watchdog. It's there to stop the government from overstepping its boundaries and to act as the final guardian of your fundamental rights as a citizen, ensuring fair trials and protecting our most basic freedoms.
And this is not just some abstract idea. Look at this powerful example. The Supreme Court interpreted the general right to life to include the right to a livelihood for a street vendor. Think about that. That's an independent court connecting a huge constitutional principle directly to the survival and dignity of an ordinary person. That's powerful.
And this independence isn't just a vague idea. It's protected by some serious constitutional shields. I mean, judges have a fixed retirement age, and it's incredibly difficult to remove them. Their salaries can't be cut by politicians, and their conduct can't even be debated in Parliament. It's all designed for one reason: to insulate them from political pressure, so their only loyalty is to the law.
Finally, we've arrived at the top floor, the Supreme Court itself. Let's look at the three main types of power, or in legal terms, jurisdiction, that it holds.
First up is its original jurisdiction. You can think of this as a skip-the-line pass for certain high-stakes cases, like a dispute between two states or a state against the central government. For these kinds of issues, the case goes straight to the top. The Supreme Court is the first and the only court to hear it.
Next, and this is far more common, is its appellate jurisdiction. This is really the Supreme Court's main job, hearing appeals from the high courts. This is the final stop, the last court of appeal in the entire country. The buck stops here.
And finally, there's a unique power called advisory jurisdiction. If the President of India has a major question on a matter of law or public importance, they can refer it to the Supreme Court for its expert opinion. The court essentially gets to act as the nation's wisest legal counsel.
So, we've toured the entire architecture of justice, a system designed to be an independent watchdog that checks power and protects rights. But that leads us to one final critical question. If the judiciary's job is to check everyone else, who checks the judiciary? It's a question that gets to the very heart of the delicate balance of power in any democracy.